If I had to sum up today's entire video in a single word, it would be layered. Beyonce got snubbed at the Country Music Awards, and every country singer and their mama seems to have an opinion about it, from Dolly Parton to... I can definitely name other country artists if I tried. And even though Beyonce has said nothing about this in the weeks following the Country Music Awards decision, the discourse has just been raging on and on with more and more people jumping in, and I believe this debate about whether or not Beyonce's country album was country enough has captured everybody's attention because it taps into some layered, complex territory that has basically been a problem for as long as country music has existed. And Beyonce being at the center of all of this makes sense because truly this is a problem she's been facing for her entire career. But first, welcome, my name is D'Angelo, and I am your professor of simplified rocket science, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe this is just me broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. And in today's lecture, we get to take a look not only at this Beyonce country music snub situation, but also we'll look at how Beyonce is talked about in general, and also a few problems that I think the country music industry needs to answer for. Now, I would like the record to reflect that I get to have as strong of an opinion on country music as I want to. After 20 years in Texas, complaining about people singing about their trucks and their dog or whatever, it's my God-given right. My Beyonce-given right. Also, this seems like a good time to bring up the fact that I do not think Beyonce is God. Unlike some of her fans, this isn't the incoherent ramblings of a Beehive member. It's the incoherent ramblings of me, some guy who has heard Beyonce songs and thinks some of them are really cool. I believe there's a lot to criticize or congratulate Beyonce for when you talk about the things she does outside of her music, but this person has had a career longer than I have actually been alive, so I think for the purposes of this video, we'll focus on her latest album. Otherwise, this video would probably be longer than her latest album. So I mean, this is the part of the video where I'm supposed to tell you who Beyonce is, but it's Beyonce. Like, I think we know who Beyonce is. Let's just move on. And so this news from last month is what everybody is going crazy over. Beyonce locked out of Country Music Awards. So really, you don't even have to read past the first sentence. Beyonce has been snubbed by the Country Music Awards despite having one of the biggest country hits of the year with Texas Hold'em. Now, if you've never heard Texas Hold'em, it is a country song through and through. As Wikipedia points out, it was praised for its authentic sound as well as its celebration of the Black roots of country music, which is this is kind of a key point here. Don't forget that. And as Wikipedia says, the track ignited discussions on Black musicians' place within country music. Texas Hold'em was honestly like a moment, not just a song. I remember all the think pieces that were coming out and many Black country artists being a fan of not just the song, but its impact. And when the song went #1, because again, it's Beyonce, this was basically a win for everybody. People who never really listened to country music gave it a try, and the Black artists who often got overlooked saw their profiles rising. And she talked a bit about what Texas Hold'em means before the album came out. I feel honored to be the first Black woman with the #1 single on the Hot Country Songs chart. My hope is that years from now, the mention of an artist's race as it relates to releasing genres of music will be irrelevant. And I think that's a really, really great point. We don't get to skip to the part where it's irrelevant before we acknowledge the issue. I think a lot of people are tempted to take this kind of colorblind approach to everything in life. Like, I don't see color at all, you know? I don't care that Beyonce is Black. Why bring it up? Because truly, we're just not there yet. As much as I would like to live in a world where my race is completely irrelevant to the content I'm making, I don't. It's not. We're not there. This is the problem. Like her, I'm glad that she unlocked this achievement as well. But also, wow, it is 2024. How did this just now happen? It's certainly not because Black women aren't making country music. So I see where she's coming from, being proud of it while also saying, God, I hope one day this doesn't matter at all. I think it'll matter a lot less when things are more even. Does that make sense? She then says, this album was born out of an experience that I had years ago where I did not feel welcomed, and it was very clear that I wasn't. Now, who, you may be wondering, has the power to make Beyonce feel like she doesn't belong in a room? Well, it's fairly likely that she's actually referring to the Country Music Awards. Yes, before they snubbed her this year, she already called them out because of what happened in 2016, where she performed, actually, and ooh, it didn't go over well. As Billboard's retrospective puts it, there was backlash before she even took the stage. A pre-show announcement teasing her performance sparked calls for a boycott of the awards on social media, and after the performance, there was no mention of her appearance on the Country Music Awards website. As this MSNBC writer puts it, I saw Beyonce get booed at the Country Music Awards. I've been been waiting for Cowboy Carter. A woman in the row ahead of me yelling at Beyonce had so much rage in her voice. Were people that angry when they saw me in country music spaces? And that is why I'm saying this situation has layers. You cannot separate this issue from race without deliberately ignoring a history of information. And so that's why I bring all this up, to explain why I personally believe the CMA snub was a snub, for sure. There are always people obsessed with telling black people, no, you're wrong. No one's being racist in this scenario. But at this point, genuinely, go ahead and argue with the wall. The wall will take all of your calls from here on out because I have better things to do. Like, I'm sorry, when you've got people in the 2016 awards audience saying, get that black bee off the stage. Some people don't like Beyonce because of her music or things that she does that they disagree with. And other people don't like Beyonce because she's a black woman. And that will just never be wrong to call out, period. And also a lot of these people try to make it seem like these are the reasons. But anyways, as Beyonce continued to reflect on her 2016 experience, she said it prompted her to do a deep dive into the history of country music. Man, I wish she had turned it into a YouTube video. I would watch that. And as she said, the criticisms I faced when I first entered this genre forced me to propel past the limitations that were put on me. And that is what Cowboy Carter is. Just her going full Super Saiyan, saying, you know what? Forget all of y'all, I'm gonna make the country music album of my dreams. Or as she put it, it ain't a country album, it's a Beyonce album. Anyway, fast forward to the CMA's announcement of their 2024 nominees, and Beyonce was noticeably absent with not a single nomination. And listen, you can say what you will about the content of that album, and people have. We're gonna get into stars arguing about why it shouldn't have been nominated or whatever, but y'all couldn't muster up even one. Not even one. I don't think Texas Hold'em being #1 means it deserves an award, but I sure can't think of any valid reasons why it wasn't even considered for one. I mean, people liked the song. It was good music. It just happened to be made by Beyonce, and here's the result. I do kind of like how BBC points out, instead, Morgan Wallen walked away with the most nominations, 3 years after being suspended by his record label for using a racial slur. But anyways, now I would like to look at a few country music stars' reactions to this, which I think range anywhere from insane to somewhat understandable, but I still disagree with them. In fact, this is one of the first times I've ever disagreed with Dolly Parton. But don't get me wrong, I feel like Dolly's heart was in the right place. If I could just make a parasocial guess there. Here, let me show you what she said. Dolly Parton reacts to Beyonce's CMA Awards snub. Also, we keep saying CMA Awards. Is that like saying ATM machine? Have I been calling it the Country Music Awards this entire time? Wait, no. Does the A stand for association? Oh my God, it does. It's an association. I thought it was like the VMAs where the A is for award. I was today years old when I learned this. Why is there an association? That's so like proper. Okay, so if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, CMA Awards is not like ATM machine. Anyways, ABC News. Country music legend Dolly Parton shared her thoughts on Beyonce receiving 0 CMA nominations, and they linked to her original statements on Variety. What do you think about Beyonce getting shut out of the CMA nominations? What a question. Well, you never know. There's so many I'm trying really hard not to read this in her voice in my head, but it's not working. There's so many wonderful country artists that I guess probably the country music field, they probably thought we can't really leave out some of the ones that spend their whole life doing that. But I didn't even realize that until somebody asked me that question. But it was a wonderful album. So yes, this is me defending Dolly Parton, because let me tell you this, there are very few celebrities I would do this for, but she was asked this question off the dome. This wasn't some prepared answer or justification for why Beyonce was shut out. To me, it just seems like she's listing possible reasons. She can be very, very proud of the album, and I think everybody in country music welcomed her and thought that was good. So I don't think it was a matter of shutting out, like doing that on purpose. I think it was just more of what the country charts and the country artists were doing that do that all the time, not just a specialty album. A lot of people got offended at the specialty album branding, but I mean, Beyonce herself said it's not a country album so much as a Beyonce experience. I don't know, y'all. You have to let me know what you think about this one. I personally understand what Dolly was saying. even though I don't think that it's correct. Her main point is that maybe the CMAs are just favoring artists who have always created country music. Because yeah, even in 2016, Beyonce had released country music at that point, but by no means was she a country artist. However, that logic doesn't hold up when you take a quick peek at who else was getting nominations this year. Here we are on the CMA's website, and of course we've got Morgan Wallen topping the list, yay! But you don't have to scroll very far to see Post Malone. Post Malone and Lainey Wilson with 4 nominations. And listen, Post Malone is in fact in his yeehaw era right now. In fact, one could say he did almost the exact same thing Beyonce did, which was exclusively make hip hop and pop music and then drop a country album. So really, I can't accept this idea that Beyonce doesn't belong at the CMAs because she wasn't making country music her whole career. If Post Malone can go from this, which is very interesting, to this, then there's no way you're gonna convince me that going from this to this is somehow less valid, especially when Beyonce is extremely Texas, constantly referencing and giving resources to Houston, her hometown. So I get you, Dolly. It's not bad for an off-the-dome answer. I don't think it was quite the racist gatekeeping that some people thought it was, but it also doesn't hold up. So who do we turn to for another reason? How about country music singer Luke Bryan? He decided to weigh in with his own justification. And I'm gonna be honest, this one made even less sense. So he's actually gonna be co-hosting the 2024 awards. And he said, obviously Beyonce made a country album and Beyonce has a lot of fans out there that have her back. If she doesn't get something they want, man, they come at you, as fans should do. The Beehive is not known for being a chill fan base. Yes, that's true. But it's kind of funny because I don't think Beyonce said she wanted a CMA Awards. No, I mostly just see people in her fan base pointing out, hey, this is really weird considering the history of racism. But anyways, Luke Bryan said it was a tough subject to broach. Everybody loved that Beyonce made a country album. Nobody's mad about it. That's a funny thing to bring up when nobody asked if anybody was mad about it. I think a lot of people were very upset about it. But anyways, hold on. But where things get a little tricky, if you're gonna make country albums, come into our world and be country with us a little bit. She's probably the biggest star in music, but come to an award show and high-five us and have fun and get in the family too. And I'm not saying she didn't do that, but country music is about family. I'm sorry. This is the dumbest reason you could have possibly given. At least Dolly made a strange sort of sense if you didn't think about it too hard, but this is just willful ignorance of the highest degree. You know darn well what happened at the 2016 Country Music Awards when Beyonce showed up and tried to high-five y'all, saying, oh, why haven't you been to any of our award shows after she attended and y'all treated her like garbage? It's just so icky, just such a weird thing to say, honestly. And that's probably why he came back and clarified after people on social media were like, bro, what do you actually mean by that? I am posting tonight based on the ridiculous nature of the headlines I have read the last couple of days. Oh my God, we're just starting and you're already whipping out the victim complex. Meanwhile, Beyonce, literally being the victim of racism, hasn't been complaining about it, even though it would be well within her right to. She made an album about it. But anyways, I feel in my heart I could not let media create a false narrative. As I read through some of the comments of some of you, I just want to say I encourage all of you to listen to the interview instead of reading clickbait headlines. You will hear my tone and intentions, which were not negative. I don't think he was being negative. To be clear, I think he was being stupid. I think he was saying stuff that didn't make sense in order to uphold the decision that was shutting out a black woman out of the country music industry. I don't really think it's more serious or deep than that. I respect Beyonce and I love how loyal her fans are. I spend a lot of time supporting other artists. I want everyone to win. Love y'all. My guy, I understand that you can't come out and say, oh, hey, I don't know, maybe the CMA Awards are racist. I'm just hosting them. But you do know you could have said nothing. That would have gotten a lot further than this. Anyway, a couple artists had reactions, which I think were a lot more normal. Kelly Clarkson, who is not a country artist, talked about her experience feeling like she was shut out of the country music industry because she wasn't basically bowing down to them. It seemed like the door was closed unless I was all in and had to leave every other genre behind, which I don't think people like me or even and Beyonce are capable of doing. And as she said, I think the real win there is that you don't even need the award. You're killing it regardless, which I think this makes a lot more sense than trying to downplay a serious issue. Shaboozey, a country artist who has had a breakout year after his appearance on Beyonce's album, basically said the same thing. She's so innovative and is always pouring her heart and soul into the music. I think that's what really matters, just it being received by fans. And I mean, you've got everybody from Whoopi Goldberg to Beyonce's dad weighing in at this point. But really, if I could weigh in as someone completely irrelevant to the music industry, I think it's pretty simple. I don't think the solution is the CMAs needs to go back and change their votes. I also don't care if Beyonce wins the Country Music Association award or not. My heart will go on, you know? That being said, her fans reacting to this, or even concerned third parties like myself, this isn't solely stemming from my desire to see Beyonce win because I'm a fan. I mean, with her net worth and resources, I don't think she needs my defense for anything. I'm just annoyed. Seeing people point out the obvious reasons that could have played a factor here and being shot down and treated like they're crazy, I guess. Ignoring history to pretend like everything is okay is so common because it's kind of the only way to prove that racism isn't happening. And this, to me, seems like a clear as day example of that. Also, if I could just leave y'all with some food for thought when it comes to country music right now. The cognitive dissonance that some of y'all have to justify not hyping up black artists when they're making the same music as everybody else is insane. Like, raise your hand if you remember Old Town Road by Lil Nas X. This was actually Lil Nas X's burst onto the mainstream. Just a dude who's gonna take his horse to the Old Town Road, you know? But for some reason, Billboard decided that this was not country enough. And even though his song charted on their country charts, they removed it, while saying this decision had absolutely nothing to do with the race of the artist. And again, this was in 2019. This is what I mean about this being a bit more complex than, Beyonce didn't get an award. Nah, fam, this is a problem. So, I mean, if it wasn't because Lil Nas X was black, what was the reason? Well, it basically boiled down to the song is country trap. Trap music is very much a black genre, which has been lifted from quite a bit in recent memory and all kinds of other genres. So if your main problem is that the song does this,
got the horses in the back, horse stock is attached.
They're playing a drum machine while the country music is happening. Does somebody want to explain to me why? Because I still live in the South. Why so much country music sounds exactly like this nowadays? Remember the guy who received the most nominations at these awards? Morgan Wallen, Mr. I Say Slurs, Racial Slurs When I'm Drunk. Oh, let's check out his #3 most popular song right now. Cause ain't nobody saying Morgan Wallen's music isn't country.
Long live cowgirls, never gonna settle on down, girl.
Y'all are racist. That's really all I have to say. But that song reached #2 on Billboard's country airplay chart, so I'm gonna let y'all figure out what the difference is between a Morgan Wallen or a Post Malone and Lil Nas X and Beyonce, because I think at this point I've said enough. Anyways, that's my take on the situation. Dave's take on the situation is that he understands Beyonce because he's frequently shut out of the Rock Music Awards. It was supposed to be a really half-baked joke about how he's made out of marble. I should have brainstormed that one a little bit, but anyways, I'm of course excited to hear your take. I mean, this is the part of the video where a layman would ask you to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, but I will ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and submit your feedback. Because I'm of course running a 100% completely, totally, okay, maybe not really, somewhat unaccredited university. Probably. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. We're totally legit. And as for me, whether you'll see me in 24 hours or 24 months is honestly anyone's guess. But until then, thanks for watching. Your homework for today is to listen to at least one song in a genre that you usually never would.